The AFC West is one of the most stacked divisions in all of football. You have the Kansas City Chiefs, who have been to 3 straight Super Bowls, won 2 of those 3, and are viewed by many as the best team in football. The Los Angeles Chargers, who are looking to take the next step behind Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh. As are the Denver Broncos, with Bo Nix, Sean Payton, and a very improved defense. And then there's the Raiders, who retooled a ton this offseason, bringing in Geno Smith and Pete Carroll as they look to get back to the playoffs. Today, we talk about the X factors for the AFC West. Let's get into the video. The Kansas City Chiefs have, just been the cream of the crop in the NFL. They have been one of, if not the best team over the last half decade. They have guys like Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce that have led the way. As well, Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, Justin Reid, some unsung heroes on this team from time to time. They obviously have a fantastic core. But we saw in the Super Bowl that not only can they be beat, but they can be thoroughly outplayed from time to time. There are weaknesses on this Kansas City roster, and there are X factors that can make or break their season. My honorable mentions for this team are wide receiver Rashee Rice and cornerback Christian Fulton that the team acquired in free agency. Rashee Rice is coming off of a torn ACL last year, and he's also dealing with the question marks regarding the reckless driving. Will there be a suspension? It doesn't seem like it, so let's focus more on the injury aspect. Because before Rashee Rice got hurt, he was the main pass catcher for the Kansas City Chiefs. He had surpassed Travis Kelce, and the team could really use him, especially in the short game, mid-game offense that, where plays don't need to develop as much to get down the field and to make stuff happen. Stuff. Oh, you almost got me there. Christian Fulton, the team's cornerback too. They brought him in. He was on the Chargers last year. He looks to fill that CB2 role for the team this year. Can he play, or will 2 wide receiver sets give them trouble? We saw last year with Houston, and I believe that December game before Tank Dell got hurt, he was really giving the team fits. If an opposing team has a really strong wide receiver too, they can have a big game. Devonta Smith in the Super Bowl, you get my point. But the X factor for the Kansas City Chiefs is actually, I'm cheating here, one of 2 players. Jalen Moore / Josh Simmons. At the end of the day, out of these 2 guys, I don't know who's going to be the starting left tackle for Kansas City. But I do know one thing. Whoever it is needs to perform for this team. Jalen Moore obviously was the backup to Trent Williams for the San Francisco 49ers, and Josh Simmons was the Chiefs' first-round pick in this year's draft, a guy who is viewed by many as the best tackle in this draft when healthy. So there's that X factor caveat there of, can they get this guy on the field? Regardless of which one of these guys plays, though, they have to be ready to step up, and they have to be good right away for Kansas City to be able to compete. We've seen in Kansas City's 2 Super Bowl losses, the way to beat this team is to get pressure. And the tackle position was subject to that pressure getting to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl and giving him very little time to make decisions and let plays develop. And while with the mobility of quarterbacks, including Patrick Mahomes himself, has kind of eliminated somewhat of the blind side, the left tackle importance, shotgun mobility, these kinds of things have made it so the left tackle isn't so much more important than the right tackle. But it still is. This is an Andy Reid offense. There's plays under center. There's trickery. There are things there that it's important to have a strong left tackle. Obviously, viewed by many as the second most important position in the sport for a right-handed quarterback, the Chiefs need theirs to perform at a high level. We know Kansas City, with this offensive talent core, that's one of the best that they've had in years quietly when healthy. Travis Kelce still kicking, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Isaiah Pacheco. There are elite weapons on this offense, good to elite, I should say, that has boom play potential. But for boom plays to happen, you have to get protection. At the end of the day, there's no doubt about it in my mind, whether it's Jalen Moore, whether it's Josh Simmons, the left tackle this year for the Kansas City Chiefs is their X factor, especially when you start to consider the loss of left guard Joe Thuney. It's no longer one of the league's best veterans at left guard, meaning even more importance on the left tackle position. The Los Angeles Chargers are a team that I really believe can take that next step this year and go from just a team that makes the playoffs to a team that makes the conference championship game. And I'm so high on this Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert duo that I think there's a slim chance that they find themselves playing in Super Bowl 60. But these X factors that we're going to talk about will really have to perform. My honorable mentions: running back Omarion Hampton, this team's first round draft pick, and cornerback Dante Jackson. Omarion Hampton was one of my favorite prospects coming out of the draft. If you guys didn't watch my running back video pre-draft, you don't know that, but I love this guy. My comp for him was Le'Veon Bell. Enough said. If he can produce year one, the Chargers will not only have a dynamic offense, but a two-dimensional offense. Pairing him with Najee Harris could be one of the league's better run games. And Dante Jackson, the team obviously lost Christian Fulton to the Kansas City Chiefs. Dante Jackson, now a veteran corner, comes in, but he is going to have to play a high amount of snaps for this team as things currently stand as their cornerback too. Can he produce at a solid level all season and hold down this defense? But the X factor for this Chargers team is none other than wide receiver Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. My big problem with the Chargers last season and why their ceiling was just always so capped was their offense was never going to be dynamic enough to go on a Super Bowl run. Simply put, they just didn't have the personnel, and that got massively exposed in the playoff game versus Houston. It was Ladd McConkey and a bunch of guys out there. Quentin Johnston was out there. You brought in Mike Williams. Those are not stud wide receivers, especially not on the outside in today's day and time. They're going to need Trey Harris to produce big time. And listen, Trey Harris was an addition that this team brought in the second round of the draft, who had over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns at Ole Miss last year and looks to be a true threat at the X receiver position for LA. And as I mentioned, his competition is Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston. Trey Harris is going to get all the opportunity in the world to take over that job and be the team's #1 outside wide receiver. Pair that with Ladd McConkey in the slot, Omarion Hampton at the running back position. You have some solid tight ends in this group, a good offensive line, and all of a sudden you have a really dynamic offense for the Los Angeles Chargers with Justin Herbert, who's considered by many to be a top 8 quarterback in the sport, distributing the ball. Yes, Trey Harris isn't going to be the #1 wide receiver on this team. It'll still be Ladd McConkey. But what Trey Harris has an ability to do is be a true X wide receiver that is a threat that teams have to put their best corner on, that teams have to give safety coverage to, teams have to worry about being beat over the top. They can't zone in on Ladd McConkey. And in a playoff game, you don't have to rely on just one weapon in the receiving game. Trey Harris could make the Chargers from a B-level offense to an A-level offense this season. And if they make that jump with what Minter's doing with the defense, what Jim Harbaugh's doing with the team culture as a whole, and if Justin Herbert with some more playoff experience can show up in these big games, I wouldn't be shocked if the Chargers went on a run. The Broncos are in a really similar spot to the Chargers, in my opinion, as they are another team in this AFC West that could be poised to make the leap from wildcard playoff exit to AFC Championship bound, because they have had truly a really good offseason. When it comes to X factors for this Broncos team, my honorable mentions are running back RJ Harvey and wide receiver Marvin Mims. Listen, these are two guys that I think have the ability to step up for this Denver Broncos offense and elevate them to the next level. RJ Harvey could be this team's true 3-down back if things work out. He's an older college player, meaning he's more likely to be ready for the NFL level competition. And Marvin Mims, to me, feels like the guy who could be the true wide receiver 2 alongside Courtland Sutton and step up and play best. We saw Marvin Mims make that excellent catch versus Cincinnati to send the game to overtime last year. He's a deep threat. You could run him on drag routes. Marvin Mims is likely your wide receiver 2 if you're Denver with the highest ceiling. But my X factor for this team is none other than safety Talanoa Hufanga. The Broncos are absolutely loaded on the defensive side of the ball, and they loaded up on more defensive talent this offseason, and in so added an absolute missile across the middle of the field in Hufanga. And when you picture him in this Broncos defense, they could be the best in football. This is a Broncos defense who last year led the NFL in sacks behind guys like Bonito, Singleton, and Allen. You look at their secondary, it already has reigning defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain Jr. And then as well, you drafted a Jahdae Barron. You brought in a Dre Greenlaw at linebacker. But Hufanga, to me, is the X factor piece that I think, if he has a healthy season, can be an all-pro for Denver. And I'm not kidding. I know it's been a while since we've seen a healthy season from Hufanga, but back in 2022, he played 17 games and he was just shy of 100 tackles and had 6 turnovers from the safety position. That is absolutely insane production. This is a guy who trains with Troy Polamalu. This is a guy who has an all-pro ceiling. If you can keep him out there, he is an absolute force. And again, putting him in this Denver defense that is already one of the league's best is a very, very scary sight. A healthy season from Hufanga and a healthy season from this Broncos defense could be all it takes to elevate them again from wild card to AFC Championship on the strength of the defensive side of the ball, while you have Bo Nix and Sean Payton, carefully putting out a very solid offense. To me, the Las Vegas Raiders had one of the more interesting off seasons in the NFL that I didn't see coming. Obviously, they extended face of the franchise, Max Crosby. They brought in Pete Carroll and traded for Geno Smith in an effort to get back to winning ways. And with their first draft pick in the first round, they took Ashton Jeanty. But yet, in a loaded AFC West, I'm just not sure that this team can really get out of 4th place. And listen, I gotta be quite honest here. If the Raiders are going to make that move out of 4th place and be a playoff team this year, they're probably gonna need 2 or 3 of the X factors that I'm going to potentially mention to have X factor level seasons. The honorable mentions, Christian Wilkins and Jeremy Chin. This Raiders team brought in Christian Wilkins expecting a guy who could be a real tag team partner for Max Crosby on the defensive line, and he just hasn't been that yet. In his last season with Miami, he had 9 sacks. That is the level of production that he has to get back to for this Raiders defensive line to truly be menacing for opposing teams. And Jeremy Chin comes in as a veteran player in what is a very young secondary for the Raiders. We could talk about any of their corners as X factors, but I think Jeremy Chin across the middle of the field over the top is going to have to be a steady presence for this team to be successful. But my X factor for this team, it couldn't be anybody other than running back Ashton Jeanty. And listen, was it the easy choice to pick Jeanty? Absolutely. But regardless of this team trading for Geno Smith, it's Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. We know what they want to do. They want to run the fuck out of the ball. And they want to do that with Ashton Jeanty, the guy they drafted to be the workhorse. And Ashton Jeanty is an absolute blue chip, can't miss prospect at the running back position who could do it all. And is coming off of one of the best running back seasons in college football history. 2,600 rushing yards and 29 touchdowns. That's a great rushing season for an entire team. Jeanty did that. And while I have no doubt what Ashton Jeanty will one day be at the NFL level, and that is a top 5 running back in the league, if the Raiders are going to make that playoff jump this season, I think he needs to reach that this year. And it's possible to do it. Saquon, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs feel like lock top 5 guys to me, but that 5th spot is up for grabs. And Ashton Jeanty could certainly grab it this season. And the Raiders will certainly need him to. The team that I kind of kin the best outcome for this Raiders team to is the 2016 Dallas Cowboys. If you remember, the Cowboys brought in both Dak and Zeke in the draft that year, so it's not exactly the same, but the formula for winning could be rely on your workhorse young running back to carry the offense and have the quarterback that can make the throws, but also doesn't make the mistakes, get you going and spread the ball out on 3rd downs. That would be the formula for the Raiders. Let Ashton Jeanty carry the load on this offense. Let Ashton Jeanty be the engine of the car. And let Geno Smith make plays when needed. Because Geno's got a good arm. And weapons like Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Jack Betch are solid pieces. But this team will go where Ashton Jeanty takes them in 2025. And I'm not saying that it won't be a challenge. In today's NFL that is so heavily on passing from where it was 9 years ago when the Cowboys were successful behind a Zeke engine, it's not where we're at. But Ashton Jeanty is the guy who has that level ceiling where I truly believe he can carry an offense. And if anything we learned from last year with Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry is the running back might be having a resurgence. So maybe the Raiders got their guy at the right time. But as always, guys, these are just my thoughts. These are my AFC West X factors. If you're a fan of the Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders, let me know your X factors in the comment section down below. If you love the NFL and you're not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit that button. 2 new videos dropping up in just about 5 seconds or here, so I'll catch you next time. Peace.